It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio, flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome on Facebook and Instagram at The Mike Nowak Show and at Mike Now on Twitter.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
Yeah, bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Welcome, 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 welcome. I've got no place. I've got no room here to do my John Oliver. Oh man!
Just do it in the air.
Oh, that's a. If I did it on the computer, wait, I can do it on the computer, and the whole thing will shake. It's earthquake time. I shouldn't try that,
folks. We're done.
So we're doing our John Oliver impression, and I've got my Conan O'Brien hair, and everything's good to go here. So
I haven't seen John Oliver in so many years.
Oh yeah, but I now just what happens is it often if you get what is it the square Chicago what's the come on the not Red Square, but a little red square shows up that is that. Aggregator of news stories, not Block Club, but Public Square. Isn't that what it's called?
That one.
Yeah,
that one. I can't think of the guy's name. John somebody, the editor. On
is it one really? I don't know his name. I just know Chicago Public Square. Chicago Public
Square is. I cannot think of his name. I was actually on a webinar with him and Monica Eng a few weeks ago where they were talking about online Chicago journalism.
Oh, really? Wow. How did I miss that? Why didn't I get an invite to that? Because I'm not a journalist, I guess. I don't know.
You weren't on the list. I don't know.
I wasn't. I see. It's just, I'm not a cool kid. I wasn't a cool kid in high school, and I'm not a cool kid now either, I guess. So there you go.
Well, as Skeet is saying, good morning, a little chilly. Yes.
You think?
Yes,
Skeet,
20,
come on,
it
dude.
was 20 degrees and a wind chill of 8. Happy March 27th.
Yeah. And phenology alert, because we were talking phenology. I realized I was, I did an edit of that show for the podcast and for a couple of radio stations that we send this to. And we never did spell phenology. And I'm sure a lot of people are we're looking it up. F-E-N. No, it's P-H-E.
No, that would be about fens. This is not about fens and bogs.
Right.
No.
P-H-E-N-O-L-O-G-Y. Phenology, however you want to pronounce it. But we've got a phenology alert today because I was noting, I looked on my phone, and there's a photo from my Cornus Mass in bloom last year. You want to know the date that it's in full bloom? March 27th, and which is today. And this year, it's just starting to bloom. So in terms of phenology, it's a little slower than it was last year. And Peggy just froze. That's not a good sign. Well, then I'll just keep talking to myself because she's probably going to reboot and find her way back on here. I don't. Okay. Hey, folks, welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, except Peggy Malecki's not here. We've got a great program for you today, despite the fact that it is 1,000,000 degrees below zero outside. No, it just feels cold for this time of the year. Let's bring this in. Well, no. I didn't want to do that. Hold on. I wanted to bring my own picture in here. There we go. This is what we're doing. Voila. And we'll keep an eye on Peggy and see if she gets back with us. But we've got our buddy Bob Benenson is here, and we're going to be talking about local food forum, meaning what's going on in the world in farmers markets and that sort of thing. Let me adjust that. Oh, there you are. Woo! You
No, I don't have Comcast. We're now running off my phone.
What? You lost your
Comcast went down. Yeah,
Hey,
Comcast went down.
I'm telling you, you can't trust them. Evil company
So
and lousy service. It's a
I'm
good
sitting there looking
combination, you know?
I'm sitting there looking at a modem with no lights.
Oh my goodness, that is not a good thing. I wonder what happened this morning. And now you're frozen again. So this is going to be an interesting morning here. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Wait,
Did
there
I
you
just
are.
disappear? Yeah.
You were there, then you weren't, and then
No,
you're
that
back.
was vMix just went away on me. So let me get restring back up. Now, what you were talking about phenology, and I was about to say before I was so rudely interrupted by Comcast that my trilliums are starting to come up.
Right. And there's all kinds of stuff coming up. It's just cold. I have put my emergency hoop houses over some of my veggies that were put outside. I think they're going to be okay. Heck, if I could get my parsley to survive the whole winter under one of those little things, I think some of the veggies can survive a couple of days.
Yeah. Oh, they'll be fine.
And when I say hoop houses, I mean this is the way I operate, folks. Here's what you need to know. I'm not going to go and get the thing that you're supposed to get at Gardener's Supply. No. I'm going to buy one of those, I've already got. It's what do I have in the house? It's a plastic bin.
Milk crates.
There's holes in milk crates. So, but a plastic.
Then you put plastic.
It's too much work. All right, I'm all ready that you've added another step. Don't add another step to it. It's a matter of taking a plastic bin that you had some clothes in. You take the clothes out. You take the plastic bin outside. You put it upside down on your plant. There's your hoop house. And
leave the clothes on the floor.
And exactly. That's how it works. Yes, a big pile.
Hey, honey, the modem's starting to have signs of life. Oh, good. my power just dipped. Stay tuned.
Oh, wow. This is really exciting. Okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do because
quick, get Bob on.
Yeah, I think that is the order of business here because he's watching probably in horror and saying, "Why don't they bring me on the show?" So that's what I'm going to do now.
I do have one note with Bob coming on.
Yeah.
You were talking about Facebook memories. So my Facebook memories that came up yesterday from Good Food Expo 6 years ago, 2016. The remote broadcast of the Mike Nowak show. I believe that was the first time I was helping you with on-air broadcasting.
There we go.
Yeah, I was reminiscing about the Good Food Expo myself because this past week was the third anniversary of the last one. And my Facebook memory yesterday was Jim Slama, the founder of Family Farm and now the managing director of Naturally Chicago, for which I contract. And it was him with somebody costumed as the Easter Bunny in 2016.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I have a photo of me standing there with the Easter Bunny, yes.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. We were always doing a monstrous production with not enough people. And that kind of came to a head in 2019. But there is no way that I would have had the context and the connections that I developed very quickly after moving to Chicago 10 years ago and deciding to change careers and follow my passion, for good food. If it weren't for the expo, so I have fond memories.
You should, and I know being on the inside is a very different story. But being on the outside, we have to refer to it as the late great. Anything that goes away like that, sure. I know the late great food expo because those of us who would attend it and be part of it and didn't actually have to put it together really enjoyed it, and there was so much energy in the room, and hundreds and sometimes thousands of people there And I saw it develop from the days back when it was at Navy Pier and other
Or the
places,
cultural
and the
center. I
cultural
remember at the
center.
cultural
Yeah,
center.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. And what I do, and I'm sure a lot of other people do this, is when you're part of a big event, you kind of just take a second and step back and just take it all in. And frankly, even though I was part of it, it was amazing that so few people were able to pull off
Yeah.
an event that had so many moving parts. It was quite an
Yeah.
achievement.
yeah. So
Yeah. We're just
here's
looking at the comments coming in from people. All these remembering it fondly, loving the presentations, loving the
yeah.
Yeah.
So there are other people who miss the Good Food Expo, but things we don't have a Chicago Flower and Garden Show anymore either. And for a
Is that
while,
gone now?
yeah,
Yep.
it's yeah. Tony Abruscato, who ran the Flower and Garden Show for the last number of years, actually said on our show, I want to think 2 years ago, he basically said, yeah, it's dead, and so
Yeah.
at least for now.
Yeah, 2019 was the last one. There was one for 2020, and he had to make the really difficult decision as the pandemic started to cancel it.
And and it's so hard, and you have to plan so far in advance, as you had to with the Good Food Expo. It was, but in terms of the flower show, you're planning an event, and you're getting growers to produce flowers that'll bloom in March, which means they're working a year ahead of time to do those schedules, and you have to know whether you're going to go with it. And so Tony just said, "Hey, there's too much uncertainty right now, and I cannot move forward with this." And so
Yeah, the contract with Navy Pier, that alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And yeah, if we had to terminate the expo, the timing was perfect because it was always at the end of March. And so if we had gone ahead with it and done all this planning with all the expense, all the work hours involved, and then had to cancel it in March of
Yeah.
2020 because of COVID, it would have been an absolute catastrophe.
well, and the other thing that you mentioned, the timing of it, being who I am and the kind of show I do, I cover both. All right. And
Yep.
what I
Right.
would,
Me too.
and often they would be on the same weekend. And I would say
Mhm.
to, I tried to get Tony and Jim Slama together. And I said, can you guys work out a deal where you can support each other's shows so that I can cover both of them and people, because there's the foodies and then there are the
Yeah.
gardeners, but there's a lot of overlap
Yeah.
in that. And they wanted to go
Yeah.
to both
The,
shows.
I
the
remember
overlap
there
is
was
edible.
yeah,
No, it's not just the overlap is edible flowers. No, the
and
overlap is growing
chefs and
vegetables.
cooking and yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
there was that one weekend where we had the Saturday morning radio show. Remember, we ran down to Good Food. We went back, did the show, went back to Good Food, and then we did Flower and Garden on Sunday for a live broadcast.
right.
That was nuts.
Yikes. Yeah, that was when we were doing shows on Saturday and Sunday. Oh my God. Stick a fork in me. I'm done with that. So here we are, Bob. It is March 27th. It's like 0 degrees. It's not. It's 20 degrees outside, but it's pretty cold. We got, as Peggy said, a wind chill of about 8. And yet next, well, wait, before we go to what's happening next week, I just have to say, happy spring. Good to see you. What is the winter been like? I've been getting folks need to go to localfoodforum.substack.com. You need to subscribe. You'll be kept up on all the foodie things that are going on in the Chicago area and then some. And one of the things I noticed, Bob, is that the winter didn't slow you down at all. There was something going on all the time.
No, that's true. When I started Local Food Forum almost exactly a year ago, it was predicated on the idea that there's a whole broad expanse of issues involved with the local food system. Farmers markets, grocery stores, farm-to-table restaurants, of course, but big issues like food access, food equity for people in underserved communities, global climate change, regenerative agriculture, all of that. So there was never going to be a shortage of material. And these are issues that go on all year. Plus, farmers and farmers markets are spending the whole weekend planning for the next year. So, it's been nonstop, and no reason to stop because, when I engage in this, and I have been a family farm for 7 years and doing quite a bit of writing, and I always wondered why nobody tried to do this kind of thing because there's so much material out there.
Because it's
And when
so
I
hard,
decided
Bob. Because it's so difficult. That's why.
it is challenging, but when I decided to cycle out of family farm last winter, early spring, I saw the same opening. I saw the same void, and a community that's doing so much good work. And but to a great extent, everybody's working in their own silo. The farmers are doing their farmers things, the markets, the chefs, the issue advocates, and there was really no one publishing platform that was pulling it all together. So I jumped in there, and it's certainly our artistic success so far, and we've gotten a lot of subscribers. I wish more of them were paid, but it's also it turned out to be a great door opener because a lot of people that I had, occasional acquaintances with when I was working for Family Farm, people in other nonprofits, farmers, Farmers Market Soul Network, now saw me as somebody who was providing them with a platform, 24/7, 365, to protect their issues. So I've actually gotten quite a bit of contract work at it.
I know
Starting
that's
the newsletter.
the downside or the upside, depending on how you look at it, is that you've gotten a lot of work out of it because people notice what you're doing and say, "Hey, that's a guy we could use." The problem is it gets in the way of your day job, which is local food forum. But that's okay. There's always room for more work unless it kills you. So
Yeah, fortunately, I do write and produce that newsletter fast. And yeah, I'm a hardworking old hippie-looking guy.
yeah, I want you to write my blog for me because my blog post kills me, and I only do it once a week, and I just want it out of the way. I don't as much as writing is a good thing, and I think it's important. And I've talked about this before, but I don't know how you do it. But you did continue. Oh, and I want to let people know they can if they can subscribe for free to Local Food Forum, and
But it would be better if they subscribe for sign
but
up.
the point I'm going to make is that you can subscribe and read it for a little bit, and then if you go, hey, this is something I'm actually reading when it comes into my inbox, then get a paid subscription and help Bob
Yeah,
out. That's how that works.
yeah, yeah. It works both ways. Obviously, I like and need money. Everybody does, but the whole idea here is to build a big community. It's almost like a community resource. Even the people subscribe for free. It's getting the word out there. It's enabling me to inform more people about what's going on in the local food scene. And so, there's no shortcoming there too. I'll take subscribers any way they come in. I
Yeah.
thoroughly appreciate the generous people who have gotten paid subscriptions as well.
Well, and that seems to be the model now. One of the things I've noticed is that there are a lot of writers as news operations fall apart. They suffer from entropy, and more and more reporters are going out on their own, and they're starting their own blogs. Not that we haven't had blogs before, but it's kind of different now. There's like news blog in 15 years ago, a blog was a novelty, and it was, oh gosh, I'll tell you what I'm thinking today. And now they're going out and actually doing reporting on blogs. And a lot of these blogs will say, hey, you can sign on for free. If you like what you see, please subscribe and help keep me going. And I've noticed that that's a very popular trend.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think Patreon's probably helped too on that. Sorry, Bob.
Patreon has, Medium has helped. Substack is the platform that I'm on. And yeah, until 2 or 3 years ago, there really weren't these kind of publishing platforms where you could just do a newsletter, do your own thing. Nobody's editing you. Nobody's giving you instruction. I like to joke that I've always been my own favorite boss. But you guys are doing your own thing too, and there's a real liberty. There's a real energy that comes from being able to decide what you're going to do and just do it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, and believe me, the market, the subscribers will tell you if you're going off the rails in some way. And so far, that hasn't happened. One of my proudest things is that I've got a whole
Yeah.
lot of subscribers and literally a handful of people have unsubscribed. And when I started, people were said, "Oh, don't publish as often. You'll burn people out. They'll be spam." And I listened to them, but I also knew how much material there was out there.
Mhm.
So as long as you keep it fresh, as long as you're writing about different subjects all the time, coloring it up with photographs and other graphics, obviously there's an audience for it. It's true across the food spectrum. If you look at your recipe blogs, I mean, I get Epicurious like 6 times a day. And I
Well,
have
Yeah.
unsubscribed.
but do be careful. But do be careful because I subscribe to at least two blogs where the writers have already said, "Hey, I hit burnout. I'm going to be backing off on this for a while." You actually did a little bit of that, so that make it three. I mean, you're still figuring out what you can do and how you can survive this.
Yeah, it took a little while, and I did have a period in October where I kind of hit the wall to figure out how to balance the newsletter and all the other work that was starting to come in. So that happens, but now I think I've level set, and it's all good.
All right. Well, let's go very quickly because let's do the lightning round here. We've got a bunch of things going up. It starts with Green City Market. Yes, it's 20 degrees and a wind chill of 8, and yet they are opening the Green City Farmers Market next Saturday, April 2nd. What is that all about, Bob?
That is a bold move. And I've been checking the advanced weather forecast every day. Right now, it says it's not going to rain or snow, but it is going to be in the low 40s. As you know, this being Chicago, that will change at least 6 times before
Right.
next Saturday. But to one extent, they've already had a season extension experiment at the other end of the calendar. In 2020, the season started late because of COVID, and because of COVID, they knew they weren't going to be able to do an indoor market at the Peggy Notebard Nature Museum as they always had. So they decided to extend their outdoor season to around Thanksgiving in late November. Now, of course, that takes a risk. It could be darn cold in November. It could even snow in November. But it seemed to work out well enough. And last year, when the season started on time in May, they did the same thing, extended to Thanksgiving. And so they just thought, okay, we're not going to do an indoor market again this year. Let's consider opening early. Let's think about moving it into April. It's not going to be that different or that any worse weather-wise than moving it into November. And so that's what they're doing. But there's more to this. And, Mike and I had a pre-discussion about this the other day, that we're going to see what the impact of a couple of phenomena are in terms of how we define the growing season here in the Chicago region. One is global climate change. I just saw a report yesterday that there are plants that are now emerging a month ahead of when they did, I think it was a century ago. But that's an indication that and the USDA says, what used to be the St. Louis climate zone is now the Chicago climate zone. And the season could very well be starting early. So the things that we really look for, and we used to cherish going to the market on the 1st of May and finding that first asparagus from Michigan and finding the ramps, the wild ramps in the market and rhubarb and some of the early plants, maybe they'll be in early April. The other thing is farmers themselves are practicing season extension to a much greater extent. They're building hoop houses. They're building other indoor growing facilities. They're overwintering plants like kale and the leafy greens that actually thrive from being in the ground during the winter.
Yeah.
And so, unlike a few years ago, before farmers were really getting into season extension, I think that when we go to the market next week, we're going to be surprised to see how many different varieties of vegetables are available. One of the things that I really noticed last year was the incredible improvement in the quality of heirloom variety hoop house or hothouse tomatoes. I mean, I grew up on hothouse tomatoes growing up. You know, those little hard balls and the that were almost
Yeah,
orange and the
yeah,
little tray that
the
you got.
orange cardboard. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And so I was skeptical, and then I started buying these things, and they were virtually the quality of summer field tomatoes.
yeah,
You're starting to see a lot of greens. You see those overwintered vegetables, but also some of the more innovative indoor growers are growing beets. They're growing root vegetables, and they're appearing on their market tables in late
yeah.
April,
Herbs.
early May. So it's really a major change in how we view food, and it's important because the farmers, May to October growing season was always very tight. You have a few rainy weeks, and you're just not doing as well as you should. So
Yeah.
now that there are
Yeah,
alternatives.
And I
it's
want
going
to
to
mention.
kind of turn seasonal eating on its ear, though.
Yeah, it will. It definitely will, and that's a good thing because
Sorry, Mike.
instead of getting your beets and your lettuce and your herbs from California or Texas or something like that, there'll be more of a year where we can get them right here from home, and it's all about local food.
And I want to make sure that folks know when it's open. The Green City Market in Lincoln Park will be every Saturday in April from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Boy, 8 a.m. is going to be very chilly. And then Wednesday and Saturday, May through October, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then they also have one in the West Loop, which will operate every Saturday, May through October. That doesn't open till May, so if you want to get in on the early action, you have to go to Lincoln Park. But the one in the West Loop will operate May through October from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Mary Bartlemy. How do you pronounce that? Is that how
I think it's part of it. Yeah,
Bartlemy
yeah, I
Park?
think it's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you made a very important point, Mike, for the listeners. If you're used to want to be the first in line at 7 o'clock, get an extra hour of sleep. You can make up for daylight savings time, that hour of sleep you lost, and show up at 8 next week. The other thing is the West Loop Market is also a month earlier than usual because previously it was May 1st of May for Lincoln Park and then early June
Yeah.
for West Loop. So they pushed that up altogether too. So it'll be great for vendors and it's we'll really see which farmers are taking full advantage of the opportunities provided by what we were discussing earlier.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see which consumers are taking advantage of the opportunities because there's some people that are itching to get out to a farmer's market. Now, here's your opportunity. For a long time, we just rode the bus, Armitage bus, straight across to the market, and had a couple of carry bags, and try not to buy too much if you're going to go back on the bus. All right, I want to get to the fundraiser for Ukraine, which was a very cool event. Tell us about that.
And we do before Bob hang well at the end. There is that hanging question out there about Bob's hair, but let's talk about the fundraiser first.
Oh, okay.
It's answered.
You put it in the blog, Mike.
Okay.
We're having a hair off here, but I'm going to win. I'm telling you, I will win.
Yeah.
I will absolutely.
You
All right,
get the side shot a little bit.
That's something to do
Yeah.
with Bob cutting his hair. But back to Ukraine.
Whoop.
Yeah. I decided, I went to ground 2 years ago, and I just let it go, and I decided I liked it. It kind of suits my new lifestyle here.
Yeah, same.
But the Chicago chefs cook for Ukraine. It was really one of the most amazing events that I've ever attended. I'm really pleased that I was able to attend and cover it for Local Food Forum. If this was your typical event that took 2 or 3 months to produce, it still would have been amazing because they had 72 chefs, some of the biggest names in Chicago, great restaurants, amazing food, amazing drink, amazing desserts. And we were talking about the expo before. It's the kind of show that needs like months of planning. The people who were involved in this put this together in 2 weeks, and just shows the power of this community and how it can come together and galvanize over the big things very quickly. Chefs Tony Priolo Piccolo Sonio, which is in Westtown, came up with the idea. Quickly recruited Sarah Stegner of Prairie Grass Cafe,
Digress.
and she's a founding board member and still a board member of Green City Market. And she recruited two Darren Guest, who's a current a Green City board member, and Ed Davidman, who's a former board member, and they pulled this all together. They got assistance from some of our more engaged activist chefs in pulling this all together, and it was so inspirational. I'm sure that most Americans just their hearts are broken over what's going on in Ukraine. It's a horrendous tragedy. To be able to support it in some way by helping to promote an event. The event aggregated more than $500,000. Again, this is something that came together in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Brought in more than $500,000 in proceeds for Chef Jose Andres World Central Kitchen, which for several years now has been racing to disaster areas, places that have terrible hurricanes and floods and tornadoes, or places with danger zones like Eastern Europe. And so far, I just read on their site yesterday, they provided 3.5 million meals to healthy, nutritious meals to people who are absolutely desperate, people who are in Ukraine that are suffering from supply line challenges, refugees who have fled to neighboring Eastern European countries. I would like on this show to nominate Jose Andres for Nobel Peace Prize because he is just
Okay.
one of the most amazing individuals in the world. What he has done and the sacrifice and risks that he and the people associated with World Central Kitchen take to make sure that people in these desperate situations are taken care of is just amazing, and it's rewarding. So there's so much bad going on in the world, to see some people who are doing so much good is extraordinary.
Just jump in, Peggy. It's Bob.
Bob,
You have to.
Do you know if people weren't able to attend the fundraiser, is there still a donation through?
Oh yes,
through the
just go to the
not through World Kitchen
website. Yeah,
Okay,
World Central Kitchen,
but not through the local Chicago fundraiser. They can just go to
No,
World
no, no,
Central
no.
Kitchen.
Because all proceeds. The Green City Market handled the proceeds because they were a nonprofit, so they were able to make fuller donation. Also get discounted rates on the space and Navy Pier and all that. But yeah, just go to the World Central Kitchen website. I think it's wck.org.
Well, you don't have to
That'll
worry
do.
about that
That'll-
because I've got the link up on my blog post. So if you and it is wck.org if you want to go straight
Yeah,
there.
and I just put it in the stream too.
So
And actually, Greg just said President Biden gave a shout out to World Central Kitchen and Chef Andres during the speech yesterday in Poland.
Yeah,
How cool is
yes,
that?
he did. Yes, he did.
All right, listen.
It's very cool, very amazing.
I'm sorry we're out of time. We got a couple in there, but this is a preview, Bob. This is a tease because you're going to have to be on the show definitely within the next month to explain how the season is ramping up and where folks need to go to get their fresh fruits and vegetables for the farmers market seasons. Folks are eager to do that. So. This is you and I are going to talk, and we will schedule something for very, very soon.
Yep.
Yeah, I welcome that, and I'm happy to be out of hibernation, even on a cold day. And definitely, come hell or high water, I will be at City Market on Saturday.
Oh, I know.
I'll be able to share some thoughts with you.
And I'll be looking forward to reading your posts on it
Okay, thanks, guys.
on Local Food Forum.
All right, Bob Benenson, go to localfoodforum.substack.com. Take a read. Subscribe for free and then subscribe for money, and you're going to enjoy what you read about local food. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We are talking Grow Now when we come back. So, yes,
Mike, if I disappear, I'm switching off my phone back to Comcast. So.
Good luck.
So if I disappear.
Good luck. We'll see what happens on the other end. From spring seed and soil treatments to summer foliar feeding to fall stubble digesters, Blazing Star provides microbial tools from tiny biologicals for natural and organic farmers. They have solutions for home gardeners too. And Blazing Star also offers agroecological education and consulting, especially for permaculture work in zones 4 and 5. Learn more about these great folks and great techniques at blazing-star.com.
Andrew at Urban Greens.
Hey, this is Joel.
We are an indoor hydroponics farm in the Twin Cities. We grow lettuce, greens, and herbs and deliver them year-round. And for the last year or so, we've been growing with Happy Leaf LEDs.
Yeah, before that we were using LED light bars from some of the big guys, Philips, GE. We ran into Poly a little over a year ago at a market outside Chicago, and since then we've been on the Happy Leaf train.
Yep, and a year in, we are extremely pleased with how they perform for us. We have some rainbow chard here growing. We get excellent growth. The growth is quick. Leaves are thick, plants are sturdy, and Happy Leaf LEDs have worked well across all of our plant varieties.
Yeah, we use them for our seedlings as well, and that's honestly where we've seen some of the biggest improvements. Seedlings under Happy Leaf are coming in full and thicker stems than what we've seen under the other lights we've used.
I don't really have a favourite tree specifically. Trees are so different, and at different ages they have different things that make them interesting. Scots pine trees have fantastic bark. The giant redwood is fantastic again because of the bark and the size of it. My name is Gary Hill and trees are my thing, but I'm also into shrubs. Keep calm and prune on.
Words to live by. One of our favorite, that's one of our favorite spots, Peggy and I. Keep calm and prune on.
Prune on.
Prune on. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And look, you're back. That's good, Peggy. That's good news. I'm glad
That
you're...
was like 10-second downtime here. That was good.
Wow, that was quick. Let's hope that Comcast holds on. Emily, I hope you're not, I hope you don't have Comcast out there. I'm not sure what service is providing your inner tubes. But thank you for being here this morning. Emily is the author. Okay, product placement. Ready? Here we go. Product placement. All right, it's just not only in stereo. If we had one more, we could have a quadraphonic sound or picture. Grow Now: How We Can Save Our Health, Communities, and Planet, One Garden at a Time. Emily Murphy, welcome back to the program. You were with us. I was looking. It was almost 4 years ago, and it doesn't seem like that long a time, but it's scary how fast, especially during with 2 years of a pandemic in between. How everything seemed to be frozen in amber, and now we're kind of getting back to the real world here. And at the time, you had a book called "Grow What You Love," and we talked to you about that. And now you're moving on to saving the whole planet, other than just, which is not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. So tell us what is the evolution? And I should mention to people, and there's a link on my blog post. You do a blog called "Pass the Pistil," PISTIL. Okay, folks, hold on. And so you talk about all things gardening, but what is the evolution from Grow What You Love to Grow Now?
Yeah, great question. So Grow What You Love is a book that focuses on 12 sets of seasonal ingredients to change your life and your cooking. And really, when I set out to write that book, it was a reflection of where I was in my work at the time. It was also a way to really honor the gardening heritage, my gardening family that I grew up in, my mother, my grandmother, and other mentors in my life, and really celebrate the simple act of growing and focusing on the things that matter most in our lives. And the last chapter in Grow What You Love is a chapter called Continue Growing. And in this chapter, it's a look at how we can get more from our gardens and more from our lives, and understanding that when we grow our gardens, we're growing our lives. And really, this book, Grow Now, launches off from this point. It's a look at growing our gardens, not just for ourselves, but for wildlife, companion planting, interplanting, etc. And Grow Now really takes those ideas and dives much more deeply into how we can grow our gardens in a way that are beneficial, again, not just for us, but for the planet. And what we realize through the book is that growing for ourselves is in a way that's healthy, and in a way that approaches our gardens from this regenerative approach, which is something I bring up in Grow Now, is really beneficial to us as well as the planet.
Well, we might
So,
as well.
Emily,
Go ahead, Peggy.
just for viewers who might not be familiar, when you use the word regenerative, that term, what are you referring to?
Yeah, great question. So regenerative is a term that is commonly used in agriculture. It's an up and coming term, often referred to as regenerative organics. So the idea is it's no longer enough to be sustainable. We have to regenerate our farm systems. And what I've done is I've scaled regenerative organics for home gardeners. But to look at regenerative, the idea is that it's, again, no longer enough to be sustainable. When you look at the word sustainable, the root word is to sustain, which at its core means to maintain the status quo. And what we know when we're looking at the climate crisis and species extinction is that it's no longer enough to maintain the status quo. We have to look at every square inch, from our containers to our greater landscapes, our gardens in between, as places of refuge, places that we can regrow and where we can reassemble nature, rewild our food systems, rewild ourselves, and rewild our cityscapes and homescapes. And the regenerative practices give us the basic principles for making this happen. And they're so simple that it kind of seems crazy that it actually works, but really they're these practical everyday terms of or principles of maintaining living roots in the ground, keeping living roots in the ground by growing perennials, planting cover crops, growing ground covers, growing organic or beyond organic, skipping the use of pesticides, herbicides, and synthetic fertilizers, taking a no-dig approach, maintaining the soil ecology by preserving it by disturbing it as little as possible, planting biodiversity for biodiversity, and doing no harm wherever we can, and preserving wild places. Those are the essential core tenets. I'm sure I'm missing at least one, but that's kind of it. And I outline how to do that in Grow Now.
Well, one of the things, and I've listed your tenets of regenerative gardening essentials in my blog post, and one of them is grow organically and say no to synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. But I think a number of people will be surprised at the no-till, no-dig approach. Some people who are new to gardening might say, well, whoa. How can you even garden if you're not digging? And I know this because I've been talking about this. I've been talking to people about this for 20 years. All right. This is not a new concept, although it is gaining momentum. But the first time I heard it, I was surprised. And what I was told was, yeah, just lay compost down on top of the previous year and then move on. I'm okay. I like that a lot better than like digging around all the time. But folks,
ripping everything out and starting from scratch.
So to talk a little bit about that, and in terms of carbon, one of the things I like about your book is how you explain to the layperson what carbon is, why it's important to stay in the soil, and how you can actually help it stay in the soil. That's all connected to the no-till, no-dig approach, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what we know is that the root causes of the climate crisis, excess carbon in the atmosphere and loss of biodiversity, are really the same. And what that tells us is that the solutions are also much the same. And these are nature-based solutions, such as the no-dig approach. Preserving the soil ecosystem also keeps stable carbon stores in the soil. Because when we till and we dig, we actually release those carbon stores up into the atmosphere. Most of or a large amount of carbon is stored in the Earth's surface, whether that's in soil or peatlands. And we can do the work of shuttling carbon back into soil, where much of the atmospheric carbon originated was in the soil. And we can do that through the no-dig approach and keeping living roots in the ground. And how that works, I know carbon has become a dirty word thanks to the overabundance of carbon in the atmosphere, but really carbon is life, and it takes life to make life. Mm-hmm. And when we think of how scientists, for instance, look for signs of life in the universe, they look for signs of carbon-based life and paired with water. And when we keep that in mind, we remember, okay, carbon is life. Every living thing has life in it. To foster life in the soil, which it's the soil microbes, specifically mycorrhizal fungi, which are really helping shuttle carbon down into soil. We can consider it from, feeding the soil carbon. And we can do that by top dressing, layering up with organic materials such as compost, leaves, leaf mold, any number of different types of organic mulches could work. Compost is a go-to mulch for food gardens, of course, and then keeping living roots in the ground. What happens in the carbon cycle, many of you might remember from 3rd or 4th grade, photosynthesis happens when plants breathe in the CO2 and they convert sugars. They convert that into sugars thanks to the presence of water and light. They shuttle these sugars down through their bodies, or their plant bodies, and those sugars are really carbon. And eventually those sugars with other plant-made compounds exude out from plant roots, and they barter these root exudates, these sugars and other plant-made compounds out of their roots, and they barter with those. They barter with these, I guess I should say. It's a little early here. With microbes and microbes such as mycorrhizal fungi and certain microbes. They're providing plants with hard to find water and other nutrients. So there's this underground superhighway happening. They're exchanging nutrients and water for so they can survive. And in exchange, then these mycorrhizal fungi are actually helping create humus, which we all love. If you're a gardener, you know what great soil truly is. And when we look at that rich, dark, earthy material, well, that's humus, and it's these relationships that most plants have. 90 to 95% of plants form these relationships with fungi, and it's really this collaborative effort between plants and soil life that allow this process to happen. And we can preserve that soil life by digging as little as possible. And there's some other wonderful benefits to this as well. That soil life also helps support biodiversity above ground.
One of the things I tell people when I explain the connection, and there's a thing called the soil food web, and you know about this because you refer to people like Jeff Lowenfels and his books, Teeming with Fungi and Teeming with Microbes. You refer to Doug Tallamy, who is going to be on our show in just a couple of weeks once again. And these are people who have paved the way and pointed out how important these relationships are. And as I tell folks, it isn't necessary that you understand every single relationship and how the exudates work, how the roots are attracting the various microbes to the rhizosphere, which is the area around a plant. What you need to know is it works best if you just leave it alone. If you just let it be and you apply some compost, especially if you're growing vegetables and that sort of thing in your yard, because compost is the soil food web. When you're applying that to your yard, you're applying all these microbes. And that's the difference between that and synthetic fertilizers, isn't it, Emily?
Absolutely, absolutely. Synthetic fertilizers actually break that ecological cycle that naturally happens, and what we know is that that nature knows how to grow itself best, and we can learn from the ways of nature. And when we look at how nature grows itself, leaves fall from trees, other plant bits fall to the ground, decomposers do their work, squirrels might be coming in and moving seeds around, and there's all sorts of other animals that are at work, and they're creating their own compost. In a sense, it's nature's compost that then feeds the soil, and this wonderful life equals life equation, it takes life to make life equation, then is able to continue. And synthetic fertilizers just don't do that. Compost is really our best way of mimicking nature, and it's basically the lexicon, the language of nature that we can. It's the closest we can get. And as you say, yes, it's feeding the soil food web, and the soil food web, then a healthy soil food web makes it easier for us to grow our plants. It does much of the work of fostering a healthy garden, healthy plants, and has this fabulous push and pull with life above ground. So if you have a healthy soil system, then that soil system is supporting life above ground, and everything is connected.
Well, let's look at some of the practical applications of this. With some of these lovely photos that you sent me, I just wanted to pop this in. Where was this taken? Do you know?
Yeah, this is taken in my community garden. So I moved a year ago. Anyone who follows me on Instagram knows I moved a year ago to a home. I had to give up my community garden plot, but for 10 years I rented. I had a deck garden and a community garden plot. And this is in that garden. It's an organic garden, and the practice there is a no-dig approach, and that's part of signing on to this garden, which I thought was so progressive. Was to use these practices, and the garden itself is full of food, but it's also full of birds and other wildlife, which is a really remarkable place to be.
Yeah, you talk about the no-dig approach and how it follows nature. Well, nature doesn't sell gallon containers and 5-gallon containers, and sometimes if that's the way humans work. So occasionally, you're going to dig a hole to put that in, but that keep it to a minimum is the whole point of that. And this looks like some of the produce from your garden.
Absolutely, yep, that sure is.
Flowers and vegetables. I love this shot. Did you take this one?
I did. I took that one. That's actually across the street from the community garden where I had my plot for so long. The native plant group, and it's not the California Native Plant Society. I'm in Northern California, near the Point Reyes area, if anyone's familiar with Northern California. And so the California Native Plant Society is big. This is a regionally based Native Plant Society, and they've taken over this bayfront area, and where it was once just rock hard soil and grass, old, weedy grasses, they're beginning to replace that with native plants. This is a California Fuchsia, which is a native plant, and this lovely little hummingbird coming in to feed.
Wow, that's very, very cool. And penstemon also. The hummingbirds
penstemon,
love.
and this is the same. Yeah, and this is in the same plot, and I think it's wonderful that it's in the bayfront area, because people were walking by constantly and they're seeing the beauty and the benefits of native plants, and that they can be are beautiful. I think oftentimes people think, and when you have Doug on your show, Doug Talamay, he'll probably talk about how we all need to be considering editing in more native plants and editing out some low functioning ornamentals. And people might say, native plants, they look scraggly, or they
weedy.
How is my garden beautiful? Right, weedy. And when you really take time to consider plants native to your area, you're going to find native plants that are beautiful. One of the gardens in Grow Now that I feature is actually the garden of Pam Carlson, and she's in Chicago. She is under the Chicago O'Hare Flyway, and she's just blocks from the Kennedy Expressway. And her garden is predominantly native plants, and a lot of them are strictly native. And you'll see in the photos in Grow Now how beautiful her garden is. And she has so many birds. She's not a food gardener. She's just a native plant gardener, and her garden is incredible.
She's got water features and everything else in
Yeah,
a very, very small space.
Yeah, she's going to be on the show. Well, she's been on our show. She's going to be on our show again very, very soon, and we're working with her on an awards program in Chicago called Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards, and so we're very happy to be doing that. I want to pop up something else here, which I think is kind of interesting. It's kind of a before and after shot. Where is this taken?
So that is taken in Sonoma, the downtown Sonoma, and this is an example of what most front yards often look like. And when you pivot and turn around and look the other way, you see a different approach to growing and how we can use every square inch. And the idea, how I start Grow Now, is I start Grow Now with, let's take the bird's eye view. Before we talk about where you're going to put your garden, take the bird's eye view. If you were a chickadee, where would you make your home? Where would you land? And if every home has this traditional lawn and maybe nothing growing in the health strip, the space between the road and the sidewalk,
the parkway.
Right. Where would you go? And I know that's an aesthetic that was popular, but it's time to update our aesthetic. It's time to rethink what's beautiful, and it's again time to rewild our systems, and that starts at home.
So Emily, there's a term you use in the book, nature quotient, that I think is really pivotal when people realize, what is someone's approach to nature? How much do they actually know? Because that's certainly going to changes the perspective and totally changes how you look at your yard. Can you explain?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to explain nature quotient. And this goes back to something Mike was talking about earlier, that when we're looking at the carbon cycle, you don't need to know every term or understand it completely from beginning to end to understand that, okay, if we just leave soil alone, that's what he was saying, and top dress with compost, let nature do its work. And a nature quotient is very much similar to that idea of you don't need to know every scientific name of every plant and animal. What really your nature quotient is asking you to do is to pay attention, be curious, and expand your understanding of nature by spending time in nature. So if we consider your IQ is your ability to reason, and your EQ, your emotional quotient, is your ability to collaborate with others. And some say your EQ is a better measure for success in life than your IQ, which I think is interesting. And I pull in your nature quotient, your NQ, into the book because I think from my perspective, it's time to bring nature to the table, and it's time to realize in many ways that we can't continue down the path we're on without bringing in our nature intelligence, our intelligence for nature. And it's really these nature-based solutions that begin with us that provide opportunities for hope through action and finding new ways to interact and relate to nature.
I'm looking at it right now, measure your nature quotient, and you ask some questions like how much time on average do you spend outside each week? 2+ hours, 1 hour, less than 1 hour. I would also add, you should add one more, which is it's impossible to get me back inside. And what are your touch plants with nature? House plants, nearby park or open space, plants and trees in your yard and garden. And I like this one. Which of the following have you done recently? Take a nature walk, stop when you hear the sound of a bird, Notice a change in wind direction. Look to the sun to figure out the time of day. I like that one. Notice a shift in seasons. Yeah, we did. Peggy and I noticed this morning when it was 21 degrees and 8 degrees wind chill. Pick up litter or photograph flowers and plants. And you ask a bunch of questions like...
Yeah, my response would be yes.
Yes to what? Oh, to all of them.
All
Right.
of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I did pretty well on this. I think my nature quotient is decent. It's better than I thought it was, at least. And the final thing...
think the Wi-Fi one was the one I had problems with.
Oh, what was the Wi-Fi one? What is that?
Go without your phone.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a hard one. If you can,
But if you're using iNaturalist to check things in your yard, does that count?
There we go. So... finally, before we let you go, though, a lot of and you have practical advice. We need to let folks know that there are practical advice of, specific plants that you should be looking at. For instance, you have plants for butterflies here. You have fruit trees and shrubs, and I don't think many people think enough about growing fruit trees and shrubs.
I love the whole perennial. Your whole perennial section in here of, your perennial edibles, your perennial herbs.
Yeah, edible perennials, and then the perennial food forest section I love. I did that section with Eric Tonesmeyer in Massachusetts. I photographed his garden and pulled him in on that section because that's where he really shines. And there's so many great plants for people on the planet. That's that section. There's so many great plants in there that are wonderful places for readers to start planting.
And going back to what we were talking about with Bob Benenson that ties in totally here. You've got a cheat sheet for eating with the seasons. That's identifying vegetables.
I love that. I was looking at the cheat sheet and what you can grow in each season, and every season has carrots. So you can put carrots in any time of year, and you're going to be fine. And speaking of perennial edibles, I'm very excited because this is the first year I'm going to be harvesting my asparagus.
Year 3.
I am very stoked about that. Well, folks, let's do a product placement here, Peggy. Once again, Grow Now. We didn't even get into how you can go beyond organic. But just read the book and find out. It's by Emily Murphy. I've got the link to Emily's site, Pass the Pistol, where you can find out about information on the book. And Emily, congratulations and much success with this.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, it was absolutely a pleasure, and thank you for getting up early. Like you said, it's frightfully early there. In the wilds of the left coast. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right.
Thanks, Emily.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're getting to our green segment in the next hour. We'll tell you what we're calling it when you stick around.
Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio with just a soupçon of humor. Or is that a dash? Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts, Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, rutabaga. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene. Give me all that I can take. Get me stuff
And
that
welcome
I
back.
can break.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome. Yeah.
I'm getting seasick here. Well. So speaking of soil, etc.
I said no.
That's my no button. The no button.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
So
Anyway.
speaking of soil and everything else, my latest reading is 43 degrees for the soil in my garden.
Oh, you know what? I need to check my thermometer. You want to wait? I'll run out back and.
No.
No. Okay. I'll check it later.
I also remembered after all the rain, but I'll be set for this coming week. I put the rain gauge out.
Oh, you know what? I think I need a new rain gauge. It's a plastic one. I think it cracked over the winter, so it's.
Don't we have some in the Sega stash?
Yeah, I do. That's why I have to go in the garage and grab one from the Sega stash, and that's the Chicago Excellence in Gardening
Which,
Awards.
by the way, we are in the midst of planning the 2022 Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards. Should be opening May 1st, so hopefully we will be back
We're
in person.
Judging gardens and giving out awards, fantastic awards that you can signs that you can put in your yard. However, you have to live in the city of Chicago. Just being one block over the border doesn't count. We had a controversy about that at one point.
Maybe next year. And
it's
if
not-
if you'd like to get involved, all of our viewers, if you live in the area, you don't have to be in Chicago to be on the committee. We are seeking judges. We are seeking people who want to get involved in the committee.
Basically, just so you know, Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards, we started in 2017 as a reaction to the city of Chicago dropping the Mayor's Landscape Awards, which they had done for more than 50 years.
With a loud thunk.
They did a mic drop. Unfortunately, they broke the mic. And that was Ram. Ram Emanuel did it. Thanks, Ram. Good job, buddy. And don't get me started on mayors. I am going to get started on
Back to Sega.
All right, we'll get okay. So anyway, I got mad and I said, well, if they're not going to do awards, I'm going to do them. And so the Mike Nowak Show and then Natural Awakening Chicago and a bunch of other groups like Illinois Extension and Advocates for Urban Agriculture and
Shed Aquarium, because we know Christine's watching right now.
That's right.
She's on the committee.
Good for her. And the Shed Aquarium has been a huge part of this because of Christine and Julie Taylor and other organizations like Forest Preserve District of Cook County. They all backed us and said, okay, we'll do this. And we've given out 150 awards. Well, for 3 years, we did it live in person. And then, of course, COVID hit. And we did videos for 2 years. And now we're going back to live. And that's a good thing. And now we know that we can be safely outdoors. That's not an issue. And so we're going to resurrect the Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards again this year. So it'll be our...
we're going to recharge it.
Recharge it, yeah.
Yes.
Recharge it. Yeah, it'll be the 6th season, which is
Regenerate
amazing.
it.
And we are a not-for-profit, a 501c3. You're welcome to donate your hard-earned cash to us if you want, because we could always use it to help to recognize individual garden achievements in the city of Chicago. And the last 2 years, we were able to do that elsewhere because we did the video challenge and we just opened it up to everybody. But if we're going in person, I'm not driving to Omaha to look at a garden.
Yeah. But very specifically, other than donating, we're looking for people to help with judges. We're looking for people to help with marketing, social media, and getting the word out. And we're looking for a couple of tech people.
Just membership, team members is what we're looking for. Judging is a very specific thing. My feeling is like we just want people to who love gardening and think gardeners need to be recognized for the good work they do in beautifying and not only beautifying but helping save the planet. As we just learned through Grow Now, which is leave your yard in better shape than you found it, like by adding compost and planting the right plants. So, yeah, you can get a hold of me, Mike, at MikeNovak.net, and I will certainly pass your name along to the team. I want to show you something, Peggy. I was going to do this at the beginning, and then you had your technical issues seem to have cleared up, so Comcast has finally gotten their act together.
Don't say that too loudly.
Yeah, you're right. Because they'll just show up and say,
No. Yeah, no.
all right. So,
No, they'll say no.
Nope. No. All
And
right.
then, but no.
Oh, yeah, and then you'll be frozen.
Yes.
Okay.
My. What were you showing me?
I was going to show you something. I was working, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. And I'm looking down, and this is peering up at me.
Oh.
I know. Yeah, it's Lagata the kitty, and because she's not down here, because I would do Lagata cam, except I'd have to run upstairs because
She's looking at like, will you please get off the computer and feed me?
that's kind of it. She's saying, is there any cool food around here that I might be able to partake of? And when she stares at you like that, you just there's and for you folks listening on the podcast, I'm telling you, you need to go to our YouTube page and subscribe so you can see this wonderful photo
I
of
think that's a Facebook post, an Instagram post right
Oh
there.
yeah, there's going to be. It's I thought I haven't done that yet, but I'm going to pop that up, so that's going to go onto Facebook and Instagram. But
And in plant news,
oh,
it's good. It's the hippiaster.
Guess what? My hippiastrums, aka amaryllis, I got 3 pots of them. Not a
I got 4 right now.
not a single one has a bud, a stalk. They're all leaves, and I'm really disappointed. And I gave them their timeout, for several months in the basement, and then I brought them up here, and one of them's a big, honking, beautiful, fleshy bulb, and all I'm getting is leaves. I'm like, what?
This one's Dancing Queen. So this is the one that's come back with full buds, and it's going to be blooming probably this week. The others are iffy because they're much shorter. They're still at leaves, so I don't know.
I've never heard of that variety, iffy. That's a very strange variety.
No, I said the others. Yeah, the others are all iffy varieties.
Are iffy. The iffy. No. All I have are. I don't know the varieties I have. They've been around.
Well, that's because I put the tag in that one. That's why.
I should have put it.
Yeah.
I don't know that mine had a tag, but. And some of
The
them
others
I got.
are all leafy varieties. Yes.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not sending up their buds and the stalks. I'm really disappointed. Well, maybe I'm going to go a year without them. That happens
Or
too.
they'll just appear later. I mean, this one was all leaves for a while, then suddenly it just started.
Oh,
sending
really?
buds
Yeah,
up.
it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible I get that. And of course, because they're indoors, their leaves are really long and narrow and floppy. What I do is then I take it all outside, put it in the yard, and those leaves will die back, and it'll send out new leaves, and they'll be much shorter and wider. They don't need to search as much for sun as they do in my house.
Here somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. Is it time for the green?
What I'm calling it this week is because when we had the suggestions, and thank you to all who made suggestions, the Green Dispatch. I kind of like that. Now, I had the green pages, and then somebody, oddly enough, wrote to me this week that an environmental group in Chicago is putting together a website that they're going to call the Green Pages, and list green organization. But as you said, other people have done that before.
Yeah. Back in the days of the late great Chicago Green Festival, they had
right. It's
There were
amazing
green
how many
pages.
festivals come and go. The Green Festival. We were talking earlier about the Good Food Festival. You and I have gotten notices, and I referred to you. There's a new one coming up in Milwaukee that looks like it's replacing the Independent Garden Center.
Yeah,
Uh,
which isn't IGA
con-
show isn't happening.
right, that's disappeared all of a sudden. So it is these, and it
Yeah.
happens. Things come and
Now,
go. The
Midwest Renewable Energy Association is going to have their show again this year in person. That's in June up in Wisconsin. Speaking of shows that are still happening.
which someday I want to go to and see. By the way, the one I was talking about, there's one in Milwaukee, the Garden Center show. So apparently that is replacing the Independent Garden Center show. So,
And
yeah,
and
whoa.
Skeet's looking for a "What Did Mike Learn This Week" segment.
Well, he just wants me to play the goofy video, right? That was loud. Okay. That's louder than I anticipated.
That's to wake everyone up.
What did I learn this week? I learned. I know I learned something because I shocked myself by playing that so quickly.
I know. I was like, "Whoa! How'd you get that pulled up and played like right at your fingertips?"
There's always something you learn. I can't remember. It'll come up. Something will pop into my head, and I'll say, "Here's what I learned this week." But I can tell you what else I did this week. Maybe in lieu of what I learned, is I planted seeds out in the backyard, and I was now with the temperatures at 20s and wind chill ridiculous. I'm not crazy about that, but you know what? They're going to be fine because they hadn't germinated yet, so we're good to go. So, but I was really happy because at the beginning of the week I planted spinach and lettuce, some peas, some carrots, and got them in containers the way Lisa Hilgenberg suggested I do, because now I can move.
Chicago Botanic Garden.
Right, I can move them around to the light areas as necessary because sunlight in my backyard is problematic. And then after I planted them, we got like 3 days of drizzle, mist, and cool temperatures, and I went, yeah.
Don't have to go water. They got watered.
Got watered. Don't have to worry. And cool temperatures for those plants that like the cool. I'm very happy. So we had actually germinated the peas indoors here, and so I just stuck those little root systems in the ground. We'll see how we do because those are the two things that we talked to Lisa Hilgenberg from the Chicago Botanic Garden, the Regenstein Fruit and Vegetable Garden at the Chicago Botanic Garden. Ow. And
Sorry.
that's almost as loud as this. Okay. Anyway, I because
would you like me to do a goat impersonation? You'll be laughing even more. No.
Please do.
Please.
Please.
No.
Folks, okay, I have to
One
tell
of these
you.
days, not today.
Everybody watching, Peggy does the best goat impersonation ever, and she refuses to do it on the show. Please.
No, I have to catch you off guard. When
you
I do
have
the
to
goat
write to her now and say,
Not
please
today.
please do the goat impersonation. Okay. All right. We need to get to some stories though here.
Do we?
No, we don't. I'm having fun. I don't want to do anything serious because there's what I'll tell you about is a few things that one thing I want
is there a non-serious story here? Well, somewhere less serious.
No. But we had Bruce send something earlier about the.
Yeah, I was going to look that up. I was going to. Yeah,
if somebody's got a link to, he says the governor is running campaign ads hyping Rockford Airport expansion. That ain't good. especially because I can't even imagine that those ads are going to say, yes, we're doing the Rockford Airport expansion and we're going to find a way to save Belle Bowl Prairie at the same time. I kind of doubt that is in that commercial. He's just going to tout the industry and the economics, and the natural area is going to go.
Okay, let's
So if you can,
see.
if
I've
anybody's got that link, if you track something down.
Governor Pritzker's new campaign ad. This is off capitalfacts.com.
Okay.
The script. Now, I have not seen this. I just looked it up. Airport workers in Rockford Mayor. It opens. Do you know what city has the fastest growing cargo airport in the world? It's right here in Illinois, Rockford, Illinois.
Oh, dear.
And as governor, J.B. Pritzker helped make it happen by investing in new capacity for our airport and funding millions to train workers. Business has already tripled, and the upcoming expansion will create hundreds of new jobs, says J.B. Pritzker in the ad. Quote, across Illinois, we're improving infrastructure and creating jobs. There's a lot left to do, but Illinois is moving forward.
Okay.
March 23rd, 2022.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes.
I have not. I'm just reading it. I haven't seen it.
No, I haven't either. It's first I heard of it. All right. One of the things we were talking about, and again, you can go to the Green Dispatch, which is at the bottom of the blog post that I put together for today's show. If you don't know how to get to there, you go to the homepage, and at the top, along the what do they call the headlines at the top? The whatever, where the subject lines: home, about, blog post, video archive, contact.
Yeah.
What is that list called? Anybody?
I'm not sure. I was reading that Jeannie Davis saw the spot already too.
Okay.
Well, so I'm sorry. You were asking what? I wasn't listening.
Okay, thank you. That's okay. Just go to where it says blog post at the top of the page, and it'll get you to the blog post. All right, and then scroll down it, and you'll see all the articles that we're not going to get around to discussing today. Although there are one that is interesting, comes out of Minnesota. I was really stunned by this. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and this is in the category of oil pipelines, okay,
of which there's a lot happening these days.
Yeah, and you're going to see something in the break that I put together about the Line 5 pipeline going under the Straits of Mackinac.
Yeah, I'd actually
Michigan.
like to touch on that Nation article if we can.
Okay, let's do that, and then because then that'll put that the PSA you're going to see at 10:30 into perspective. Well, anyway, to start, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources released details of more, they say, because I hadn't seen this story before, more groundwater leaks caused by the construction of the Line 3 oil pipeline. And they don't even say whose Line 3 pipeline, because everybody knows it's Enbridge.
Which is a Canadian oil
Everybody knows it's Enbridge. And it doesn't matter. We all know who's got pipelines crisscrossing America. Enbridge, of course.
Canadian oil company bringing mostly from Alberta.
And often just going from Canada through the United States back to Canada. That oil doesn't necessarily stop here unless it spills. Then it stops here.
Right.
So the DNR completed its investigation of 3 sites where crews installing the pipeline breached underground aquifers, causing uncontrolled and unauthorized flows of groundwater. Now, they're not saying that the oil spilled into there. What they're saying is they were constructing pipelines and broke through to the aquifers and caused the aquifers to leak.
For months on end.
Enbridge reported that flow was stopped. Are you ready for this, folks? Nearly a year later in one of them, after releasing at least 50 million gallons of groundwater. The DNR now says, and this is in Minnesota, the DNR now says that a second breach occurred around August 2nd and released about 9.8 million gallons of groundwater before Enbridge reported it had stopped the flow 4 months later. Holy smoke. A third breach was identified around September 10 near Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Reservation in St. Louis County. The DNR said Enbridge has substantially slowed, good for them, but not completely stopped that leak, which has resulted in the release of nearly 220 million gallons of groundwater.
Yeah. And in a press release, the Fond du Lac Band said the breach is discharging water within their reservation boundaries upstream of Deadfish Lake. It said the flow potentially could violate the band's water quality standards and impact its natural resources, including one of its wild rice waters.
Unbelievable. And one of them, it took them a year to get things straightened out. A year. So we put that story in so that we could put the second story in, which is the Illinois story, which you have probably not heard about much because it has not been reported, as far as I can tell.
It's not in the Chicago area, so it's not going to get a lot of press.
Just an oil spill downstate. Who cares about what happens downstate?
Yeah, it's outside St. Louis.
Yeah, right.
Edwardsville.
We send our sewage to St. Louis anyway, so why not? The Illinois Attorney General is suing an oil company, which is not Enbridge. So there we go. That's something.
No, it's Marathon.
Yeah, after more than 160,000 gallons of crude oil leaked into Cahokia Creek. Let's see. The folks were shocked when they found out more than 160 gallons of crude were spilled. And the Attorney General is stepping in now, finally. This was, when was this? Because I posted.
This is still going on, and I actually tracked back a couple of the other stories. You were saying how, nobody knows what's going on. There was a lot of people in Edwardsville that didn't know it was happening, except wondering what that smell was in the air.
Yeah. Ooh, what's that smell? Yeah. So that's going on.
What was in your coffee this morning?
I don't know. I'm just in a singing mood. Oh, but I'm going to do one before we go.
Well, and I wanted to then, do we want to get to line 5?
Yes, let's go very quickly to line 5 because that's the next one. The title of the headline is Big Oil in the Mackinac Straits is a disaster waiting to happen. And I want you to follow up on this because it's from The Nation and I used up my 3 free. Okay. So there's a paywall, but if you're going to The Nation for the first time, you should be able to read this story.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on the show, and I think it's probably time that we revisit it again because a lot has changed. So Enbridge Line 5 runs under the Straits of Mackinac, Upper Peninsula to Lower Peninsula, on what is it, a 60-plus-year-old line?
Yep. It's very close to how old I am, so it's old.
It's old. No,
yeah. Thank you very much.
A 60-plus-year-old line running right under the Straits of Mackinac, which connects Lake Michigan and Lake Huron, which is hydrologically kind of one lake. One of the absolute worst spots if there ever was an oil spill for contamination of the Great Lakes. A couple of years ago when we visited this, they were looking at shutting it down. There was a lot of tribal involvement, Governor Whitmer of Michigan, many others trying to get Enbridge to shut it down. Well, what has apparently since happened is Enbridge wants to go now, rather than shut it down, they want to blast a new underground tunnel beneath the Straits to replace the existing water pipeline. A broad coalition of Michiganders have come together to oppose Line 5, including Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Attorney General Dana Nessel. But this was created by the state's former governor, Rick Snyder.
The commission.
The commission who granted Enbridge permission to move forward on the project. And people are finally just realizing this is happening. It's not really been out there in the news quite as much.
Although I thought it's pretty well known in Michigan. I mean, this is a
but
this is
not
a big
the rest
battle.
of the country like it was. And and this is actually a very interesting piece. In November of 2020, Governor Whitmer revoked Enbridge's easement for the pipeline, citing, quote, the unreasonable risk that continued operation posed to the surrounding waters, and gave the company 6 months to shut down the line. In May, when that deadline expired, the state's lawsuits continued to progress, but the oil continued to flow through Line 5. It's violating some treaties.
That part of the deal is it is violating treaties, and that is the basis for which they hope to stop the pipeline, really.
Yeah. And so this article is written by, and I'm not sure which tribe she's in, Hadassah Green Sky. I'm looking here.
And let me say, they wouldn't be stopping the pipeline, by the way. They would be that's stopping building of it. It's already there, as we know. It would be shutting it down.
But Enbridge wants to put a whole new line in underneath.
Right. They want to put a tunnel and put a pipeline through a tunnel under Lake Michigan. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. And she says, and so the author says, quote, what we don't have is time and money. Enbridge has both and is trying to wear us down by dragging the process out and by spending funds we can't even imagine matching. Just last year, the company dropped over $8 million on advertisements for its tunnel. Given that 2020 is an election year, we can imagine that it will spend even more this year.
And this is oil that goes through Michigan and out to Sarnia, Ontario, without actually stopping in the state to benefit any of the people in Michigan.
This is the shortcut.
Yeah. So there you go. Canada's shortcut through the United States. All right. Before we go, one of the articles, I don't know if you saw the very last one I added to there, was DuSable Lakeshore Drive could get bus-only lanes, tolls, and more lakefront park space in a proposed overhaul. If you go, Block Club Chicago wrote about this, and it's pretty complex. They've got like 6 different scenarios about how Lakeshore Drive could be changed. Adding lanes, not actually subtracting lanes, but converting lanes from general traffic to bus only, and different configurations thereof. All of it involves adding more park space, which is great, especially downtown, as you get to downtown, where the lake can just lap up onto the highway and causes problems. So they want to do more landfill out there and create park space. So inevitably, we'll probably get more park space out of the whole thing. But it's interesting to see all the different configurations. I don't really have a dog in this hunt. I'm not really sure yet which one I would like. I haven't read enough about it, but it's a way for you to look at the overhaul. But what it brought to mind to me was the song. Speaking of songs, since you were talking about songs, we need to redo the words to that very famous song, Lakeshore Drive.
Aliotta, Haynes, and Jeremiah. Yep.
Aliotta, Haynes, and Jeremiah. And there ain't no road just like it anywhere I found. Running south on Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable Lakeshore Drive, headed into town. Just snaking on by on JBP DLSD, Friday Night Trouble bound. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? It just kind of does.
Don't forget paying my toll.
Paying my toll.
Staying out of the bus lane.
Staying out of the bus lane. Trying not to get a ticket because I'm in the bus lane. Friday Night Trouble bound. All right. We need to on that note, meteorologist Rick DeMaio is next. And stick around. Look at the end of this break here, and you'll see what I was talking about regarding the Line 5 in Michigan.
From spring seed and soil treatments to summer foliar feeding to fall stubble digesters, Blazing Star provides microbial tools from tiny biologicals for natural and organic farmers. They have solutions for home gardeners too. And Blazing Star offers agroecological education and consulting, especially for permaculture work in zones 4 and 5. Learn more about these great folks at blazing-star.com.
Our Great Lakes are the pride and joy of every Michigander, as well as an economic powerhouse that supports more than 1.3 million jobs.
We all have our own Lake Michigan story, right? What these waters mean to us, what this land means to us.
Threatened by a decrepit, ticking time bomb, Enbridge Line 5, that is older than I am, and I am qualified for Social Security. Line 5 flows through the whole state, and if the pipeline breaks in the straits or anywhere along its 645 miles, we will have a disaster.
Enbridge caused the biggest inland oil spill in history.
A spill that, according to DOJ records, went unnoticed by Enbridge for 17 hours.
That Enbridge oil spill happened in July of 2010.
They have a track record of lies, shoddy maintenance, and the catastrophic rupture of Line 6B fouling the Kalamazoo River near Marshall that is still not and never will be remediated in my lifetime.
If you walk along the Kalamazoo River miles from the accident, you will see the sheen of oil on the water. And that's today, right now.
Oil and water do not mix.
So we're asking, reject this short-sighted tunnel. We need to shut down Line 5.
Pretty amazing stuff. That was I got that like 2 days ago. An email that had a video of the testimony against the Line 5 pipeline, and it actually goes about 6 or 7 minutes long. And I just said, okay, let's condense some of this and put it together because it's very poignant.
I think we need an upcoming show segment.
It's time. It's time to get the folks from oil and water don't mix back on the program.
I'd like to get Dallas Bluetooth back on one of these days too.
If you think you can, I'd say go for it. Let's get him back on because I'd love to talk about what's going on.
And Winona LaDuke, yeah.
Yeah, all of those pipelines, Line 3, Line 5. And there's Rick DeMille, meteorologist. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you both?
How was breakfast?
I had eggs Benedict at Cappy's and that place is amazing. Never disappoints.
Okay. I didn't. How did you know about?
Rick texted me that he was at
Glad
breakfast.
that inspired you.
Okay,
What's that?
You texted me that you were at breakfast. That's how I knew.
Oh, I know. I was, kind of following, watching the time there that I was not going to miss the show. So you guys should feel good about it.
He doesn't tell me about his breakfast. He texts you. He doesn't text me.
Well, because Peg will answer her phone. Put it that way.
I beg your pardon.
No. This is during the show. Peg is usually
during the show. Oh yeah. Well, no, I'm not gonna. No,
you're flying this.
I'm flying the airplane here. Okay.
That's all I meant by that.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Glad to hear that. All right, I've got something I want to show you guys because a lot of us saw this, but if you didn't see it, this is one of the most remarkable things I've seen in a long time. Let's make sure that I've got the audio up on it too. Take a look at this.
All right, you've likely seen this weather video by now. A red truck got swept up in a tornado in Elgin earlier this week. We now know who the driver is. It's 16-year-old Riley Leone. He was returning home from an interview at a Whataburger when that wild ride happened. He miraculously survived, but his truck was destroyed.
Watch what happens to the truck here.
That vehicle, though, meant a lot to him and his family.
That truck's the one that helped my dad through the year's work. It carried a lot of working equipment we had, and it brought us to this now. My dad passed it to me, but I paid him off, and that truck is that got us this house.
This afternoon, we were told a Chevrolet dealership in Fort Worth will be gifting Riley a brand new Silverado this Saturday. Plus, he did get that job at that Whataburger, and he starts on Monday.
What a story.
And if you saw that, the truck gets knocked over on its side, spins around, and then the wind flips it back on its wheels, and the kid drives away. It's like, wow, what, that's luck. That's the luck of the draw, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think if Chevrolet was smart, they would get that truck and bring it to every car show across the United States, show the video, and go, look how tough our trucks are, and look how tough our drivers are. Not only are Chevy trucks tough, but our drivers are as well, because not only are you getting sucked up in a tornado, flipped back on its side, and you drive away. And I mean, that could be a commercial for the next 5 or 10 years. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about that, and they really should. That I hope they still have that truck
There's
around.
Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not something that was done in Hollywood. It was not something that was done in Twister, where the truck gets sucked up in the air and then crashes back down or gets flipped around. You know, it's like, this is a real freaking truck being caught up in a tornado. And I think the only reason why you had someone drive away was because they were 16 years old and didn't know what else to do. Otherwise, it would have been someone jumping out of the car going, oh my God, or texting on their phone. This kid was probably so freaked out, he goes, I think I just better get home right now.
Yeah.
So he was
I think he said he drove away and pulled over to the side of the road or something like that. But
that
the fact that he drove away.
Right. Yeah. But he probably drove away thinking, okay, I probably need to get off the road. We don't know whether someone is going to be driving through and could hit me, or there could be another one on the way. So that's probably one of the first things he thought of. But yeah, if that's not isn't a commercial for the next 10 years, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I've shown that video now probably a dozen times.
Oh, really? Okay.
But that's from the tornadoes and the bad storm outbreak from this past week down in Texas.
Yeah, Elgin, Texas was one of the areas where the tornado came through and had a multiple vortex spin-off tornado. And that was only like an F1. That was a weak tornado. And again, it's the weak tornadoes that you can actually see a lot of the debris move around. Usually the 3s and the 4s, there's so much debris and you can't get that close to it. People like in those tornadoes, the 3s and the 4s, you wouldn't survive, first off. But that same tornado lifted up and then from a drone perspective hit a couple of mobile homes and some other smaller buildings. But that was one of 4 tornadoes that produced F3 damage in Round Rock, just east-northeast of Austin, Texas, up around Tyler, Texas. And then day 2 of that was when the tornado went through New Orleans, which was another F3, which was really, again, remarkable from a standpoint that not more people were killed or severely injured, because this tornado was literally on the ground for about 10 or 15 minutes through the lower Ninth Ward, and that's the area that was so devastated by Hurricane Katrina. What makes that noteworthy is that most of the houses in that area are either wood frame, or somewhat on an elevated foundation, meaning that they're not really rooted down to the ground. So either A, you don't have a basement, or B, you have a foundation that's basically a wood frame elevated 3 or 4 feet due to the fact that you're on a floodplain. So your house is either going to get wind underneath it or literally get pulled off of it. So I think both times the tornadoes came through during a time of the day where they were visible. Everybody knew about it. The watches and the warnings were excellent. You had wall-to-wall coverage. But there's always that one part of an event where I just think we got lucky. We with the storms in Iowa 3 weekends ago. We got lucky with these storms in Dallas or the Austin-Dallas area, and we got lucky in New Orleans. So we've had 3 tornado outbreaks, which could have easily been much more of 50, 60 fatalities, which each one, literally the one in Iowa was 3 miles south of Des Moines. The one in Austin was 2 miles east-northeast of the state capitol. And this one was probably about 8 blocks south of the French. So you're talking, population areas that are not small. These were pretty big. And I just think we got lucky. So instead of talking about why is a tornado season so bad, what we do to help people be more prepared, you never really analyze luck, right? You never go, what made you lucky? You go, I don't know, we got lucky, and then you move on. So it's still early. It's only the last weekend of March, and we still have April and May ahead of us, and it looks like the pattern is going to get active again as we head into the middle of the week. So usually you get into these patterns with La Niñas, where you get this very strong jet stream moving through the desert Southwest or from the northern plains. And it's kind of bearing out just exactly the way it is. And remember, we talked about this 3 weekends ago. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if, as warm as we were in the first Saturday of the month of March, we'll probably have cold and snow on the last Saturday of the month of March. And that's exactly how it played out yesterday. It was awful.
This is your doing. So this is your doing.
Yep, I predicted it, Peg.
Yeah, and for those who didn't see it, and that other video didn't quite show it, I want to show it one more time. You get to see what happened when.
Okay, back to the wild weather out of Texas following a tornado outbreak. Folks, this is video you're looking at from Elgin, just east of Austin. Watch as a twister lifts a pickup off the ground, spinning it around,
Boom.
and then landing it back on its wheels. Take another look.
Wow.
Yeah, the kid could have been killed.
Okay, if that's not enough, the driver continues down the road as if nothing even happened.
Now, the only thing that I think is kind of interesting is the airbags didn't go off.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. See, there's actually a GoFundMe for his medical off of that.
Yeah. But I don't know whether or not the truck was too old to have airbags, but I noticed that when he drove away, there was no airbag that came off out of the steering wheel compartment or the curtain airbag. So maybe that's not something that Chevy wants to talk about.
It's possible. I don't know. And then you sent something. This was. I wish I still had the video from last night of this visible satellite image. If this was so cool and it looks so good on high resolution screen. This is just a screenshot. And you can see we're covered in that nastiness that blew in here yesterday. And you can see the front all the way out in the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh yeah, and this is the third time I think we're showing this type of a storm on a Sunday. We've had a lot of these. It's been a very, very active pattern. And if you notice, almost all of them are occluding somewhere over the Great Lakes, which means that the areas that are getting wet over, say, from Arkansas down to Louisiana and into Mississippi and Alabama are getting wet yet again. What's also interesting is this is the true color background. So I can either have it as a black and white image or a true color image. And the true color basically means that the satellite is detecting vegetation. And if you notice the areas of southeast Georgia and northern Florida where they've had a lot of rain in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's actually pretty green in that particular area. So, and then you can almost also see how parts of eastern Texas and the Mississippi River are a little bit darker. That means there's a lot of water in it. And you kind of make out parts of western Tennessee.
Even southern Illinois looks darker on that map.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. All you need to do is go into those links that you can save those links and look at those all the time. But this time of the year, you generally tend to see the beginning of the vegetation begin to develop. Even around here, I mean, most of the grassy areas are green, but yet the snowdrops, I noticed them this morning when I took my dog out for a walk at about 8. The snowdrops that did rebloom over the last couple of days when it was warm were drooped over and not only frozen, but don't look like they're going to come back. So we had a hard freeze last. Yeah, temperatures were down into the low 20s, which is really remarkable considering how warm we've been with the 5th day of 70 that we had last Monday.
Yeah, some of those, if you had blooms open, there's a good chance that they got zapped by the freeze. If the buds had not opened yet, there's a good chance they'll make it through. So it's kind of iffy depending on your situation. And here's the winds that came through here, the showers and squalls on Friday.
Yeah, and this was basically the type of setup that you'll get in late March when you get a couple of showers that will develop you sometimes can get a little bit of lightning and thunder in them, which was why it was kind of odd that we actually severe thunderstorm warning out. But the fact that the wind was blowing so strong just above the surface, once the rain shaft begins to develop and you get this coalescence of raindrops and sometimes what we call grapple, which is basically like a spongy hail. Usually grapple is raindrops that get thrown up into the anvil and don't get a chance to get too high, so they don't really get that hard of an ice cover. So it's literally a raindrop that like you put in the freezer for about 5 minutes and then you pull it out before it ends up getting a chance to freeze. I think we've all done that as kids with ice pops. But the grapple will come down to the ground very quickly, and as it's doing so, it's polar air down. So if you get a column of air that's getting kind of pulled down with the shaft of rain or sleet, that's really not sleet, it's like hail and then that grapple, you'll get a lot of wind. So the wind about 2,000 or 3,000 feet above the surface was blowing about 60 miles an hour. And if these things are moving at 40 miles an hour, you can easily get that wind down to the surface, which is what happened. And it generally lasts less than about 5 minutes. But the fact that it's happened on a Friday afternoon, I mean, I was walking out of class downtown on Friday at about 10 to 5, and literally we went from sun with clouds to a heavy shower of snow and 40 to 50 mile an hour winds for literally about 30 seconds. And everybody's looking around going, what the hell is this? Yeah. It didn't last long, but it was pretty dramatic, and an umbrella wasn't going to help me. You just had to endure it. But it's crazy March weather.
And
then yesterday the temperature just kept going down.
Oh, Peg, I was, a couple of days ago, I was thinking, okay, degrees. And then I'm like going, yeah, we get a little bit of sun, maybe 42. And then I'm looking, I'm like, it's going to be cloudy, go 38. And then like I'm looking at the weather, I'm like, it's like snowing at 32 all day. I mean, I missed the forecast like by 8 degrees. It was absolutely terrible yesterday. And what made it worse was that on Monday, it was 75. I mean, Midway hit 77 degrees. O'Hare was 76. Most places was 75. And then we knew it was going to get cold, cloudy and wet. But when you Saturday,
this is ridiculous.
It was ridiculously cold. It was the kind of cold that just, it makes you hate March in the Midwest. It really does.
And then this morning's wind chill.
Yeah, I think we had wind chills probably in the upper teens in some areas.
No,
so
it was single digits, single digit wind chills.
Really? Yeah, I'm not surprised because when I got up at about 8 and took the dog, it was about 22 and the wind was blowing about 15 miles an hour. So yeah, it probably was about that low. But the good news is that it should begin to warm up during the day tomorrow a little bit, much more today, but the next month or so, we're in this pattern of warm to cold, warm to cold, warm to cold. We're not as cold as the Northeast. We're not as warm as the West. So it's going to get really hot out west and then really cold in the east, and we're going to be, be in between that. So get used to these downs over the next 3 weeks.
No.
Well, there we go. Well, let's look at this. Starting with today's forecast surface and temperature.
Yeah, I think the one thing to note is that the Great Lakes right now are only about 23% covered in ice. It's normal for this time of the year.
Oh, I can pop that up.
Yeah, most of that ice is over Lake Superior. So because of that, if you notice, so what this map shows you is the gray area over Lake Superior is where the ice is. Anything that's blue is open. So the fact that Lake Michigan is open, Lake Huron is open, but more importantly, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario are wide open, and those temperatures are about 40 degrees. They're getting lake effect snow. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen lake effect snow to the tune of 10 to 16 inches downwind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario in late March. This is really, really bizarre weather. Getting these really early season outbreaks of, cold weather, late season outbreaks of cold weather. And as a result, because the lakes are wide open, you're getting lake effect snow. So I think the one thing we've learned is that with climate change, climate variability, is that the seasons of the Great Lakes have become even more unpredictable, particularly downwind. You can get a lot more lake effect snow early and a lot more lake effect snow late. So it'd be interesting to see type of, what type of planning, tree nurseries do in those areas downwind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, because they're getting, almost a foot and a half of lake effect snow. It's not uncommon to get storms this time of the year, but to get much lake effect snow is pretty rare.
Well, what I would guess is, if you're getting the snow, that's not usually not a problem, because that's a mulch and it's actually protecting plants. The tough part is when we had something like here yesterday and today, which is these really cold temperatures, but there's no snow that comes with it, and so these plants that have come up are suddenly very, very vulnerable. If we had a couple inches or 3 or 4 inches of snow, I would be saying, who cares? But some things will get zapped by just having the cold without the snow.
Yeah, I think one thing I'll do, Mike, I'll check on what the subsoil temperature is. I know that NI does that. It probably won't be posted until tomorrow, but I would not be surprised if we probably got temperatures down to like below freezing, about 3 or 4 inches below the ground, and we'll see what type of an impact that has. But one of the good things I think about this late season cold outbreak is that you can get a lot of lake effect snow and a lot of lake effect clouds, and that'll drop the level of the lakes. I would not be surprised because I did post lake levels in this report, I would not be surprised if our lake levels drop another 3 or 4 inches due to the fact that we've been so cold, not so cold, but pretty cold these last 2 days. And alone, that will take, a couple of inches, not only with the cloud cover, but also with the snow as well. Yeah, and again, you look off, it's cloudy, and that's all lake effect clouds.
And yet you show us this is spring in Chicago getting warmer.
Yeah. Now this is just the number of days that you're above normal. So again, this month, it's really weird. We had snow on Friday. We had snow on Saturday. So I think that goes down to 7 days of observed snow during the course of the month. We'll end up probably with about the snow, I think. I think we're at 3.8. I don't think we're going to get any this week. But it shows you the increased variability in the month of March, where you can have more warm days, but yet every once in a while, a real cold days with also some snow as well. And again, what type of, what does that do from a standpoint of things that are trying to come up out of the ground that are growing? So yeah, I posted this week, but I wanted to post it again because I think it bears watching that. Even though we've seen a little bit of an uptick in warmer days and warmer temperatures, it doesn't mean that go ahead and plant early. It just means that you still, those dramatic days of like what we had yesterday and what we had today. At least the sun is out today. But yesterday was like literally like a mid-February day. That was brutal. That was brutal.
It really was. All right, now let's get to the forecast here.
This is today, and this shows you the snow downwind of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. But man, is it going to be cold across interior sections of New York. And you can see that front has pushed all the way down into northern Florida. So just like a couple of weeks ago when they had the golf tournament delayed due to cold and rain, this is another one of those fronts. And even all the way down into the Florida Keys, dew points were down in the low 50s. So the stationary front kind of up against the Rocky Mountains as you would typically get. But if you go to the next couple of days, not only does it warm up across areas of Texas and Oklahoma, but the possibility of rain returning there with that system coming in from California looks like it's going to be the case. So the Monday storm looks good for about an inch of rain in parts of California, which they need. And then you can see this gigantic low. This is like the 5th or 6th one this month, where you get this very long strung out system. And this one I think is going to bring a lot more snow to the mountains of Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, which the last one did not. it kind of came in a little bit too far south. This one is definitely going a little bit further north, and you can see by the time you get to Wednesday, there is a huge flow of moisture that comes north. So we're going to get some really, really decent rains into Wednesday. I think last week our rainfall total over the course of 7 days was about 7 to about 8/10. This one may be double. We may be looking at about 1.5 inches in many locations, and hopefully we can get some of that rain a little bit, because even last week when I drove up into Wisconsin, a lot of the grassy areas, once you get like north of like Lake Cook Road into northern Lake County, it's brown. Where around here it's green. So you go further north, and it's amazing how dry it is still in Wisconsin. And yet another storm moving up into areas of Minnesota and Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. You know, people don't realize it, but the snowiest month of the year for Marquette, believe it or not, is the month of March. And they had almost a foot of snow last week. Yeah, because most of it, you get these big storms that develop these large areas of precipitation that still could snow is, and then you get your lake effect snow, and as you see here, this thing basically stalls. So we're going to get into very wet conditions late Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the backside of this is going to be another windy, cold day on Thursday and Friday, and again, most likely winter storm warnings across areas of Wisconsin and up into Michigan. You know, Mike and Peg, I was looking at the webcam out of Northern Michigan University the other day. This was just on Wednesday. People were snowmobiling, and that's
up in Houghton area or where?
Yeah, up in the Houghton area, they were snowmobiling because there's a lot of snow on the ground. Even though southern Wisconsin had worse snowmobiling seasons in a long time. Completely different up there. So again, last year they had about 90 inches of snow. This year they're doubled it, and they'll probably get another 20 and 30 on top of that. So much beneficial rain across northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, where they don't need the rain. In southern and central Illinois, they're going to get more of it. So again, flooding rains down there. Again, still a little bit too early to see whether or not this is going to have an impact on agriculture, because they're not yet planting, but they've gotten some good dry days, so they've been in the fields quite a bit. But I think next week we'll start talking about planting days, subsoil moisture, and subsoil temperatures as we begin to get into the growing season.
Yeah,
it was
but
nice.
Go ahead, Peggy.
I was going to say it was nice to see some standing water, though, slowly percolating in, as opposed to just dry.
Go on.
Well, you were talking about trees. Looking at especially the fronts coming through the huge swath of the country. I don't worry so much about the trees on the backside of Lake Erie in Ontario. I worry about them in Georgia and in the South. You know, what's going to happen to those trees if they get hit with yet another cold front? It's because the more we move on in the season, the more the buds are out and they're likely to get zapped.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that's doing from your more trees. I agree. That's something to be concerned about. Whether or not that's something to be concerned about here yet, I don't know. But the good thing is that the pattern, while it looks cold, it's hard to get really, really cold temperatures below 3 inches in the ground when you got a lot of moisture. So to really freeze the ground, you got to evaporate the moisture. And once you get a ground that's saturated, we're not going to freeze it. So the water acts like a little bit of a buffer. I know you were talking before about the snow being a buffer on the top, but once you get that ground pretty wet, it's hard to freeze it. So again, good moisture coming our way, and that's something that's good to talk about.
So when is it going to get to a point where, just due to the sun energy and it being April, that it can't be that cold? Yes, but just from the sun's intensity, when does it get to the point where it's just really difficult to be in the 20s or 30s if the sun's out?
Yeah, and if you look at where it's getting cold, we've been getting these cold shots basically from Minnesota, central Iowa, eastward. So this is basically the result of it being really cold for the last 2 months across Hudson's Bay, James Bay, and northern Lake Superior, because Lake Superior still got quite a bit of ice on it. And one of the things I also put in my report is Lake Michigan, on average, is about 1.5 degrees cooler than it typically is this time of the year. So that alone, even though the calendar says March 27th, the lakes are acting like it's like 18th. So I still don't think the sun's energy has enough yet, but I think the question has an answer that is probably like it'll still be another month. So even though we're going into April, we've had some days where we've had cold weather in April. But the pattern is just one now that it looks like it gets really warm out west. And if it gets warm out west, because the Great Generally are cooler this time of the year, and it can easily be in that bridge trough pattern sometime even into the first week of May. So yeah, here it is. April 1st is this Friday, and a month from now it's May 1st. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm working on my May issue of Natural Awakenings already, so yeah.
So there she is. Are you done grading papers?
Oh, I'm never done grading papers.
Okay. All right. Just thought I'd ask. All right, Rick. Thank you.
I'm actually in the process of rewriting chapter 8 and chapter, which is for climate change, which is all about policy and then also energy. And there was a story that needs to be talked about because this was on the cover of the Chicago Sun-Times last week. I don't know if you guys saw it, about 2 coal plants in, I believe it was Wilmington, that burnt about 39 more coal than last year. And while that was true, if you look at what they burnt in 2019, it was actually less. So I was not happy with the way that the story was presented because it showed that we're burning more coal, which obviously we don't want. And Illinois has got a law, and we could talk about this another time, that we're going to go basically no coal plant 2030. That was passed in the state legislature.
Right.
But the fact that the article said we burned 39% more coal than last year in those 2 plants was only because the demand was so low due to COVID. So even though they showed the trend from 2020 to 2021 to 2022, no, from 2020 to 2021, I get it, but the overall trend has been down. So I don't like it when an environmental story makes itself seem like we're burning so much coal from the year before, because that means easy pickings for people who are trying to look at these things and go, look how you cherry pick the data. Don't cherry pick the data. Call it like it is. We burn more coal because they had to, because there was a demand, but you also burned a lot more coal than the year before because of COVID, and there was no demand. So if all is 2 years, you're really not telling the whole story. And all this does is it puts you on the forefront of being criticized by the other side for not reporting the facts in an objective way. Show that we burn more coal from year to year, but then show also that the trend is still down, and that's okay. So I just wish those kind of stories would not be so blatantly, potentially obvious that you're kind of skewing the data. Don't skew the data. Show the data, but also show that there was a reason why it was the way it was. So I just get a little bit upset about that.
Showing all the data is what you need to do.
Yeah, and it's one thing if it's buried.
And in context as well.
Right. And it's one thing if the story's buried. This was on the front page of the Sun-Times. And I'm like, whoa, I thought it was great that it was on there. But the more I looked at it, I'm like, you didn't really present all the data. So the bottom line is I think that's something to talk about because all of a sudden, everybody is an expert on energy with what's going on in Europe. So these are really, really important things to talk about. You'll hear people say, well, there's more of a reason than ever to drill, baby, drill. How about there's more of a reason than ever to be more renewable and to be more.
Well, that is the point. That's the point environmentalists are making right now. It's like, no. We're not going down that path again. We're trying to be forced into. Well, now we have to have coal and oil. No. Let's ramp up the clean energy development. That's what we have to do right now. So we're never prisoners to Russia again about coal and oil, especially oil.
Right. So, it's such an easy way to argue. But again, that article, and I think it's worth going back and looking at it because we didn't get a chance to talk about it because it was on last week's front page, and also talks about the future of nuclear energy in Illinois as well. So again, these are the things that are on my radar screen that I have to think about because I know that if I don't want students coming through class going, we never really talked about energy as much as we could have. So all these things that happen make me obviously more aware of it. So that's one of the things that I'm doing.
All right.
After I clean my bed head.
We love the bed head. All right, Rick, have a great week. We're soon it will be May and we might actually get warm weather at some point. And wouldn't that be nice?
Yep. Take care, guys.
All right. You too.
Good one.
And that sort of wraps it up. Overtime, as always. So let's just thank the people who are on the show today. Bob Benenson from Local Food Forum. Go to localfoodforum.substack.com. Emily Murphy, who is the author of Product Placement. Here we go. Grow Now. And you can find all that information on our website. Thanks to meteorologist Rick DeMille. Thanks to Kathleen running around like crazy as always. Thanks to Basil the dog, Lagata the cat. I think
all of our viewers.
All of our viewers. Thank you guys for sticking around. I'm gonna fix Rick's sound. Okay, believe me, I'm gonna do it. It's time to do it. Until next time, go green or
go home.
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.